Everything looked normal on the evening of June 18, 1989. The ship moved through open sea between scheduled ports. The sky was clear. The wind was moderate. Deck lights drew thin lines on the water. Nothing on the surface warned what was coming. They were newlyweds in their mid-20s from the Midwest on a simple honeymoon after a small family ceremony. Their families had waved them off with quiet pride. The plan was easy: a few days at sea, photos, a notebook of small memories, and then home. They were ordinary people on an ordinary trip. Their cabin sat near midship, an interior room without a window but close to the main corridors. Keycard activity through the day showed a calm pattern: in and out for meals, in and out for the pool deck, no gaps, no rush. The record reads like a steady heartbeat. Before departure, the family had noted two items they cared about: a 35mm camera with a fresh roll loaded, a small travel notebook, the camera for moments they did not want to forget, the notebook for lines they did not want to lose. Those details would matter later. That night followed a simple rhythm: late dinner in a crowded dining room, a deck show with easy laughter and soft applause, then a slow walk along an upper corridor by the rail. The sea was dark and flat. The ship hummed. Other passengers drifted back to cabins. Routine held. The last confirmed moment sits at about 10:30 p.m. A steward doing rounds passed them near a hatch door. He noted their faces, their relaxed pace, the way they stayed close to each other as they moved along the corridor. He kept walking. Nothing in that instant felt wrong. The corridor itself was quiet at that hour. Metal underfoot, wind pressing along the side of the ship. The hatch door stood where two passageways met, the kind of corner you forget once you turn it. The couple stepped past it and out of view. The steward moved on with his list. Then the record bends. In the bridge log, a single entry marks an event with no explanation. At 10:41 p.m., a call button near their deck registered a press. No follow-up note, no name, just a timestamp and a location. It is the first crack in a night that should have stayed ordinary. At first light, room service knocks and waits. No answer. Another call rings into the cabin, still nothing. The steward alerts a supervisor. A general crew notice goes out. The ship begins a quiet search while most passengers sleep. Public areas are swept. Lounges, stairwells, and decks are checked in order. Crew speak with cabins on the same corridor and the one above it. A few people remember seeing the couple the night before. No one can place them after the late hour near the hatch. The bridge logs the timeline and the last known location. The captain orders a slow turn along the prior course. The ship's security teams continue door-to-door checks. Muster stations remain calm. The goal is simple: confirm they are on board. When no trace appears on the vessel, the Coast Guard is notified. A helicopter lifts off to fly the track lines. A cutter steams to the grid. Life buoys are dropped and lights are set on the water. The search and rescue pattern begins square by square. Hours pass. Then a call comes from the starboard watch. Two figures are seen in the water close together, drifting on the swell. Recovery begins with care and speed. The couple is brought aboard from the starboard side. The record notes no signs of struggle on deck. With the recovery complete, the focus shifts to their room. The cabin door is opened and logged. Wallets are present. Rings are present. The small travel notebook is on the table. One expected item is missing. The 35mm camera is not there. The first written theory is brief and cautious: an accidental fall. A wet rail at night. Darkness, wind, and fatigue. The notes add that alcohol levels are unknown in the early file. No firm claim is made. The language stays careful and reserved. Crew statements are taken in sequence. The steward who last saw them near the hatch repeats the time and place. He did not hear an argument. He did not see a chase. Other staff confirmed the corridor was quiet near closing. Search logs close for the day, but the paperwork does not. The bridge entries, the cabin checklist, and the recovery notes are filed together. One detail refuses to sit flat on the page. The life jacket count is off by 1. No spare is logged as issued. The numbers do not match, and the file moves into the cold with that line unbalanced. From 1990 to 1992, the case cools quietly. New incidents fill the log. The file moves to a back shelf. Pages are copied and boxed. People still ask, but less often. The sea keeps its quiet line. By 1993, talk drifts onto message boards. The tone stays careful. A late-night argument is mentioned. A shadow in a corridor is mentioned. A locked hatch is mentioned. None of it is sworn. The posts circle the same hour in the same corner, then fade. From 1994 to 1995, the family keeps the phones busy. Calls go to the line's care office. Notes are taken. Polite answers follow. Each year, an envelope goes out year after year. The letters ask for a full deck camera review. They want the angles, the gaps, the missing minutes. Former crew weigh in when they can. A steward, years removed, remembers a squeaky hatch by the windward side. Another staffer recalls a dark corner past the theater. Not a threat, just a place light did not reach. The details are small, but they match the old corridor. 1996 through 1998 brings short press pieces. The missing 35mm camera is the point that sticks. Not the notebook, not the cabin key, the camera. Reporters ask about drift paths. No map is shared with the public. The answers shrink to single lines over time. In 1999 and 2000, memory settles into habit. Anniversaries pass. A few readers post the same 3 rumors: argument, shadow, hatch. The wording changes, but the set stays the same. Nothing new is added to the public record. From 2001 to 2003, the family keeps sending letters. The request does not change. Please review all deck cameras from that night. Please confirm coverage near the hatch. Please say if any footage is missing. Replies are brief and careful. The cold case label holds steady. By 2004, former stewards meet for coffee and tell sea stories. The squeak, the corner, the late hour return in fragments. One says the wind on that side could mask a call for help. He stops there. No one pushes. They know guesses can stain a file. In 2005, a retired officer says one bridge entry never added up. The page with the note is in the file. The line that matters is there, but the rest is black ink. The answer is redacted. 17 years pass. Then the sea gives something back. In the spring of 2006, a beachcomber walks a remote strand far from the cruise route. Sand is clean, wind steady. Half buried in kelp sits a corroded camera body. Metal is pitted. The lens mount is scarred. It should not be here, but it is. A local deputy answers the call. He logs the find and the time. Chain of custody begins on the shore, not at a dock. The camera goes into an evidence bag. The serial number plate is faint, but still readable if the light hits right. He notes that, too. A volunteer investigator hears about the recovery and asks for old paperwork. An archived property list from the ship's purser log is pulled. The list is dry. Rooms, contents, numbers. The new serial is compared against that page. Nothing is declared. Only the comparison is recorded. The question becomes movement. How could this body travel so far for so long? Drift models are checked by people who watch currents for a living. They point to looping paths that bend with seasons and storms. The answer is not simple, but it is possible. Years can do this. The find draws a small team together. No press, no noise, only careful work. They decide to attempt film recovery if any remains inside. A lab agrees to help under strict conditions. The approach will be slow. Dry the camera, clean salts, and open only when ready. Forensic salvage is patient work. Cases like this fail if rushed. The lab logs each step. Exterior corrosion is brushed back. Seals are studied for any chance of intact 35mm film. If a roll survived, even a few frames might hold a corridor, a rail, a reflection. That is the hope. Before anyone turns a screw, one more file item comes to the table. In the 1989 records, there is a taped photo of a hatch area from the night of the loss. It is useful but incomplete. The image has no timestamp. It shows a place, not a moment. The lab lights are set. Tools are lined up. The deputy's entry sits beside the purser list. Drift notes are folded under a clip. The taped hatch photo lies on top of the old file, mute on the missing minute. Hands hover over the camera body. The seal has not yet been broken, and the photo without a time waits, asking the same question the team is about to ask the film inside. The sight is simple and harsh. The camera sat half buried in kelp and sand. The metal was pitted from salt. The lens was cracked. Wind pushed lines across the beach. It looked like a thing the sea had tried to keep. Artifact 1 is the body itself, a 35mm camera. The shell is scarred, but parts still hold together. Along one edge, a light seal remains intact in places. Inside, corrosion stops and starts where that seal did its job. The serial number is readable enough to matter. It links back to the couple's cabin inventory. That link changes the file from rumor to object. The camera is not a stand-in. It is their camera. It ties the beach to the stateroom list. It ties the present to the night the corridor went quiet. Artifact 2 is inside the shell. A partial 35mm roll, brittle but intact, rests in the chamber. The lab works slow. Chemical cleaning comes first. Gentle drying follows, no shortcuts. After patience and prep, several frames come back into view, not sharp, not perfect. Still legible enough to tell a path. The first readable frames set the stage. The newlyweds sit at dinner, faces soft in low light. Later they stand on a corridor near a hatch. Clothing matches the steward's notes from 10:30 p.m. These are not stock images. They are moments named in the early record. Then the salvage delivers the turn. One corridor photo shows the bride's reflection in a window panel. Behind her, a second shadow rests in the glass. It does not match the bride or the groom. It sits a step back, shaped by a light source down the hall. The file marks it without a label. Another frame adds motion. A blurred hand appears on a rail. The fingers smear with movement. The angle leans forward as if the shot was taken while walking or turning. It suggests the photographer was not still. The lab logs each image and returns the roll to storage. Chain of custody stays tight. The camera remains in its bag when not in view. The notes repeat the same careful terms. Partial, salvageable, consistent with the night. The final readable frame does not show a face, it points instead. The line of the corridor angles toward an unlit corner. That corner sits where deck camera coverage had a known gap. The image stops there at the edge of the blind spot. This is the point where the file steps back and tests what the record can hold. We look at the photos, the bridge notes, and the cabin checklist. We keep to what is on paper. We do not go beyond it. Theory A is accident. Support. The rail on that section was open, the hour was late, and the deck was likely wet. No struggle was recorded on the ship. Limit. The extra shadow in the corridor photo and the blurred hand on the rail do not sit cleanly inside a simple fall. Theory B is third-party foul play. Support. A second shadow appears behind the bride in the recovered image. The life jacket count is off by 1, and the blind spot near the hatch matches the camera gap. Limit. There is no ID, no clear face, and no usable prints. or DNA from salt-damaged items. Theory C is a mixed event. Support: a message board rumor mentions a late-night argument, and the last frame's motion blur suggests movement at the moment that matters. Limit: there is no audio to confirm tone or words, and no witness has given a sworn statement to fix the sequence. Each theory leans on a different part of the file. Accident leans on the setting and the hour. Third party leans on the photo and the count. Mixed event leans on rumor and blur. None of them closes the loop. The record also notes a jurisdiction gap. Incidents at sea can cross flags and agencies that can make files thin or split across offices. The summary uses careful language here. Records remain partial. It matters because partial records shape what you can prove. A missing minute is not the same as a missing story, but it can feel that way. The corridor image shows a shape. The hatch note names a place. The deck logs show a time. Between them, there is still space to fill. So the case holds 3 paths and 1 set of artifacts. The 35mm camera exists. The corridor image exists. The hand on the rail exists. The life jacket number sits 1 off. These are the hard pieces. They do not point in one direction together. The file, as it stands, keeps its careful tone. It lists what was found and what was not. It names what can be seen and what cannot. It leaves the door open without saying which way to walk. And if a third person was there, why is no one else logged at that hatch at that time? The last major item comes from the lab. A faint time reflection sits in the corridor glass. It is small, almost lost in glare. Enhancement brings it forward enough to read a range. The window narrows to 10:39 to 10:42 p.m., 3 minutes. A tighter frame than the file had before. That narrow band changes the map of the night. Movements that once lived in a broad hour now press into a short span. Footsteps, a turn, a hand on a rail. If those happened, they happened here. The record does not add more. It only says when. Next, a ship diagram answers where the photographer stood. Lines from the recovered frame are measured against the plan. The angle does not match the main camera lane. It points from a blind spot just beyond a maintenance hatch. A corner the deck system could not see. That blind spot matters because it explains both things at once. Why the corridor photo holds a second shadow. Why the official footage never shows it leave. The area sits outside coverage. The artifact and the diagram agree on that point. Officials review the full file with the new notes attached. The language stays careful. In one summary, the status is listed as undetermined. No charges are filed. The case does not close. It does not open further either. It remains where the paper can support it. The community takes a step the file cannot. Families and maritime groups ask for help in plain words. Former passengers from that week are invited to come forward any small sighting. Any corridor memory, a detail about a hatch, a hallway, or a time. The ask is respectful and direct. Outside the paperwork, one more test is run. Drift math is put against the coastline where the camera came to shore. The models say the landing beach is possible. Currents can bend and carry for years, but the line on the chart runs longer than expected. It arcs past easy answers. So the case sits on a narrow time, a hidden corner, and a coastline that took its time giving back a single object. The file ends this act with the numbers in place and the path still stretched thin. The math allows the beach, but not without a longer journey than anyone guessed. Dusk returns to the empty shoreline. Waves fold over the spot where the camera came to rest. Kelp lifts and settles. Sand smooths itself again. The sea keeps what it keeps and returns what it chooses when it chooses. Inside quiet homes, the families keep photos on a hallway table. They answer calls every year. The dates do not move for them. The frame with the corridor reflection sits beside other frames that show faces before the night turned. The corridor is quiet now, but the film still points down a dark corner no one has named.